So Blade of the Immortal, these past couple of episodes definitely took me for a ride I was not expecting. I mean, it starts off on something that I could see being brought up with the potential of Manji joining the crew. You know, there's a little recruitment offer, gonna push back against that. We're gonna have some Gichi versus Manji content. Like, I kind of assumed that, but then when you see where it eventually leads by the end of last week's episode, combined with this, it all just ends up being experimentation on immortality with Rin playing house with characters who just keep breaking down her walls. Like, it was such a weird combination, but so fascinating combination of episodes that just really took my breath away. In a lot of ways, I'm enjoying binging Blade of the Immortal so much, like with 2 episodes at a time. It's insane what these 2 episodes did, while also feeling like there was no other option but to go down this path. Like, I love the idea that with Manji and pretty much everyone that he's been working with or even fighting from time to time, eventually you would think that maybe there would be a formal request, right? You know, maybe, hey, we actually work together, or the boss is taking notice, you know, things that naturally you would assume would happen. And even though I probably should have been more worried than I was, I kind of just felt like whenever Manji would talk to a leader of some sort, I never really thought that he would be, like, experimented on. I thought maybe, yeah, he'd get stabbed or, like, lose an arm and be like, oh shit, you actually are immortal. But I never, like, was assuming it would go as far as it clearly did over these 2 episodes here. But to see just how he's the type of character who follows strength and loyalty, and someone like Gichi, who, this man in his fight was awesome. Like, I mean, he literally put up a fight, and had his weapons not broke, they probably would have fought to the death, but Manji was able to secure a victory. And because, you know, this is a character he deeply admires and respects, it's like, oh shit, I want to see the person that you actually bow down to, because I kind of think you're a badass. Like, that's, like, totally in character to him. It's not, like, stupid that, you know, he just played along because, you know, it's a plot-centered reason. No, it literally makes sense for the type of person he is and the connections that he's already formed. So to have him, like, sit down with a leader who stabs him in the heart, or just, you know, he clearly knows isn't gonna play completely nice, it totally made sense while also progressing the story in a pretty interesting way, which I totally love. Though for whatever reason, I wasn't expecting him to be chained up and experimented on. I thought it was going to be like a recruitment of like, oh shit, if you truly are immortal, I'm going to send you to the front lines 100% because I know if you get your arm cut off, your head cut off, you're gonna be fine. Like, I thought that was the direction they were building up, and then to see how, you know, he opens up the door, there's 100 people there, and then you just see him in a jail cell, it's like, oh god, what is gonna happen? And I love how even at this point in time, where we're halfway through this anime at this point, it's still finding new ways to do things that I'm not expecting. It's clearly more than just some epic action adventure. Like, there's a lot of personal stories at play, and it totally makes sense for there to be characters who are very curious with immortality and with only one real subject that they can test on, bringing in doctors, giving them basically 8 days to do so, otherwise they'll kill them, bring in someone else. It totally makes sense, and for us as a viewer, even though we love Manji, it actually is really interesting to kind of have that bird's eye view, really see what's going on with his body and how it actually operates. Like, one of my favorite parts of this newest episode is how you have this doctor who basically, he knocks him out, he gives him a drug to basically put him to sleep so he can do an autopsy, basically. But obviously, Manji's alive. And I love the idea that, like, as the wound's closing, because even though he's knocked out, the ability's still active, he tries to, like, put his hand inside his body to, like, pry it open, and then his, like, hand is basically being healed alongside his body, and had he not been ripped away, he probably would have lost his entire body due to these, like, I don't know, insect cells, like, basically kind of attaching him. Like, it's so creepy, but it's also interesting because it's not happening to us, so we get to really understand this ability that's kind of been an anomaly at this point in time, while also feeling really bad for our character at hand, as he says, even though he's immortal, he still feels pain, and this is not a happy time for him. And just kind of watching that entire sequence progress, where really we were just sitting with him watching bad things happen, but also getting a couple of moments where we're like, huh, that's actually pretty interesting. I never thought about his ability or his character in this way, but because he's being experimented upon, it lends itself to be intriguing storytelling. Like, that's incredibly interesting to me. It's without a doubt the highlight of the past 2 episodes, even though it really was like last week at the end we saw him in prison, and this week was pretty much him being tortured and basically being a test subject. It was incredibly interesting, and then to see, like, by the end of this episode, how one of his hands gets cut off. This other person in the cell, he loses a hand, and they basically swap around. And it's so interesting just to see, like, how they're trying to, like, force immortality on others. they're probably thinking to themselves, okay, if we reattach this man's hand onto another person, would those cells then spread into his body and give him immortality? And for Manji, like, can he just, like, reattach any body part even if it's not his own? Like, it's such interesting science experimentation while being so disturbing and inhuman all in the process. And it's like, I don't know where they really want to go with this immortality kind of test subject angle, but that's exciting to lead us into the next episode. And I just love how, like, it feels so weird, but it also feels so perfect to have Rin kind of being separated from this storyline because she wasn't allowed inside the meeting, or at least, you know, Manji didn't want her a part of the meeting because probably would end up dead, which good call on him because who knows what would have happened. And the idea that she's pretty much trying to get answers, we're obviously seeing, you know, familiar faces, trying to get answers herself, getting fired from the group. Like, there's a lot of things happening all at once, and then the majority of her character arc for the past couple episodes was pretty much just playing, I know, housewife, basically, and just having two characters, one of which is this, like, little devil who's trying to kill you, or breaking your walls down to basically, you know, let the bad spirits fly away, and this almost, like, simpleton who's pretty much, like, super nice, but just can't control the brat in question, and it's kind of amazing. Like, I mean, for her, if she would have been, like, by herself during this entire altercation, it would have been incredibly boring from Rin's point of view. It would have been her just kind of moping around, sitting in her home, not being able to do anything, but having these, like, two wild cards who you clearly kind of expect to be important, and even if they weren't important, it's just fun to have them a part of this, like, little mini home arc, because it's, like, so weird and so different, but it kind of eases the tension of, like, the insanity that we're seeing on Manji's side. Like, some people may want to say, what's the point of watching Rin just kind of play home, play nice, and, you know, have these characters, which I do assume these two characters will be somewhat important in a future arc or something, but at the same time, what's the point of them? Like, people will argue, like, oh, it's just, you know, random bullshit. No, it actually eases the tension so you're not, like, throwing up alongside Manji or the others when you just see him non-stop getting cut up. Like, a lot of times stories, they make the mistake of just, like, for episodes or chapters on end, just looking at brutal after brutal, and then it comes to a point where you just grow numb to it. You feel like, you know, you can't show me anything you haven't already seen, but if you spread it out throughout episodes or arcs, things like that, it keeps the impact. Like, we're, at this point in time, 14 episodes in, and I still get disturbed when I see blood in this series. And I usually have a pretty tough stomach, but the way they go in, it makes it feel realistic. That content warning that we see every single episode, it lives up to the content warning. It's disturbing, it's bloody, but they never abuse that, so the gore, it never feels edgy. It never feels like, you know, it's the same thing over and over again, and it actually has somewhat of a purpose for the story at hand, so we feel as hurt as the character in question. Like, so to actually ease the viewer in that way while also giving us really interesting storytelling with this whole experimentation angle is pretty damn fantastic, I have to say. Like, this is, in a lot of ways, some of the most interesting Blade of the Immortal content we've seen so far, because I don't think anyone, unless you've read the manga, would have, you know, really said, okay, this is definitely going to be the next thing we're going to focus on. Experimentation, we're going to learn about immortality even more. Like, obviously you assume it's going to come up at some point, but after everything that's happened, especially with episode 12, did you really assume this would be the natural transition? No, but it actually feels like the perfect transition, and that's how you know the storytelling is definitely on point. I definitely think the thing I'm most interested in is what will happen, like, as you swap body parts with people and reattach it. Like, does that actually spread the cells, or is that just going to be like, hey, you have another arm and that's all it's good for, right? And is Manji going to keep the arm that he has? Is he going to cut it off, let a new one regrow? Like, there's just so many ways that they could take it that's going to be so fascinating to me, and once again, I'm just really enjoying this series, and I'm getting more and more people comment on different videos being like, hey, I saw that you were reviewing Blade of the Immortal, I checked it out, I'm really glad I did, because it's actually really interesting. So I like to see that. It's like one of the reasons why I enjoy reviewing a show like this, that even if not a lot of people are following it and it only gets a few hundred views, like, there's eventually going to be more people that take interest, be like, huh, you know, this creator or this person has been watching it and talking about it for so long, maybe I should try it out too. And more often than not, once people try it and they're not, like, looking at the internet saying, don't watch this, they can make their own opinions and say, oh, I actually really enjoy this myself, or I kind of enjoy this, but it wasn't for me, right? So that's always why I like to review shows. Like, I don't, like, look at, like, what things are going to be popular. I just say, what do I think I'm going to have fun reviewing? And then if I have fun reviewing it, whatever happens, happens with the analytics, which is why I'm definitely going to continue to review this anime all the way throughout episode 24, but I am going to be doing something a little different with the remaining episodes. So as I mentioned with episode 12 that I was going to take a break because it was Christmas and I didn't want to review it, but I really enjoyed reviewing these two episodes together, and based on my schedule going into the next season, Wednesdays are going to be pretty hectic for me. I can, in theory, continue to review this every single week, but I would be very miserable doing so because of how tired I'd be. So what's going to happen going forward is I'm going to review 2 episodes at a time. So next week, there will be no review, but the following week, I'll have next 2 episodes joint review, which will be going up late on Wednesdays from now on. So that's how we're going to do it. It's going to keep it refreshing for me, more interesting and engaging, while also being able to finish up this show and continue to give reviews to people who probably appreciate them, I'm going to assume, because not many people talk about this, and those who do enjoy a show like this, I know from experience myself, we enjoy it when there's someone actually talking about it alongside us, so we don't feel like we're the one person liking an anime in any given season. So just want to throw that out there, a little bit of, house cleaning notes, which maybe not everyone will care about, but I think it's important. I'll probably make a comment as well, just in case, some people don't get to the end of the video. But anyway, those are my thoughts on these past couple of episodes. In a lot of ways, some of the most fun I've had with Blade of the Immortal. Maybe it is just because I kind of combined them into one episode when I watched it, but still, I'm really excited for the next episode, and obviously when I get up to review episodes 15 and 16 in a couple of weeks. But what did everyone think, either for this week's episode, last week's, whatever you're feeling? Do let me know down in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't been new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.